together, and maybe most important, to practice together. But let's first tonight, since many of you have already signed on, let's unmute and say good evening to each other, just to create that feeling of being in the room together.
Good evening.
Hello.
Hello.
Hey, everyone.
Hey, everybody.
Hello, everyone.
Hi.
Hello.
Good to see you all.
Hi.
Hi, everybody.
Good evening.
Hi, Mary. Howie.
Hello.
Hello, hello.
Good evening.
We're so happy to see all of you. So a lot going on in the world. A lot has gone on, a lot will go on. But what we can discover is that this present unfolding moment can be quite simple. And that simplicity is a great salve for our hearts and a real opportunity to have peace, that possibility any moment, independent of circumstances. And the only way that we can actualize that or discover that is if we stop long enough and take a peek. Take a peek at the reality of this present moment. So the best way to do that is to brush the dust of memory and let all the dust settle, let our bodies begin to relax, let the past fall to the floor, let the future fall on the floor. And what we find that will anchor us here is this body with all its challenges still is always present, so it anchors us to reality, not imagined reality, but direct reality. So find your body, let your eyes close so that the body comes alive, not as an idea, but as sensation. Just explore a little bit the contours of your sitting body, or lying if you have to. Explore the contours, the form and the shape, that living quality, the vibrational quality, the pulsing. Just take in the stilling that happens in your body when it's received with your kind attention. Just wants to be noticed and felt. It doesn't want to be ignored. So it's an act of love to just surround this body, bathe this body in your kind attention. And as it settles and stills, naturally you'll notice how it breathes. Without making any effort to breathe, just notice and enjoy the natural breath, how the body breathes all by itself. And we give our body the gift of attention, but the body gives us the gift. When we connect with its breathing, the body gives us the gift of calming, settling. So we connect with and sustain our attention through the duration of the in-breath and the out-breath. And with each out-breath, we experience a mini letting go, release. With each in-breath, we experience a filling, a recharging. But we'll emphasize a little bit the letting go that comes naturally with the out-breath. And along with it, we let go of the past, and the future and ideas of the present. We just feel the experience of life right where it touches us. Just this breath, just this moment. With the breath and body as our support, we awaken to the whole range of experiences that make up our living experience. We wake up to sounds when they call our attention. We wake up to moods. We wake up to thoughts. We wake up to the whole range of sensations. Letting every experience call us here. Help us step out of this torment of time, waiting, of hoping, of remembering. Just settle back into the moment. Aware of not just what's in front, but also our back body. 360-degree, vacuous, panoramic awareness of the sitting body, breathing body, just as it is. Attention open, receptive, vast, but also intimate, feeling the texture of each arising breath, wherever it's most clearly felt. Just this moment, just this breath, just this feeling of sitting, just being aware. Remaining undistracted here as long as it lasts, knowing that we may drift into daydreams, into fantasies. Each time mindfulness rearises, we wake up again to where we are. We celebrate and relax. And just slowly let our attention ooze back into our body, to our breath. Our body once again bathing in our kind attention. Again and again, we reconnect and sustain that connection as long as it lasts, without strain or tension. Just this moment, just this breath, or whatever is predominant. Remembering as we connect again and again to life, right where it connects with us, that we're also connecting with all beings who are connected to life, right where it connects with us. We're all sharing this living experience with all its joys and sorrows. So remembering that we're not alone when we wake up to where we are. And then in support of remaining connected, that longing in us to connect, remain connected, we feel our bodies, we feel our breath. We begin again. Once again, step out of time into this living reality. Just this moment, just this breath, whatever it is that's felt here. Thanks as always for your practice, showing up. Deja vu all over again. Here we are. And it's a beautiful thing, though, that we have these routines, for at least for some of you who make this a routine, place to return to. For me, it's truly a refuge to be able to meet with you and to remember the Dharma. I just focus on the news of the day, focus on the trance of the world. It can seem pretty bleak, but to be reminded that in the middle of it, in the middle of this experiment of humanity and creatures coexisting, that's not going so well. But in the midst of that, we can have a little taste of peace. And with a little taste of peace and the pleasure of good company, joy can arise. And to know that there's joy even in the midst of a difficult world, it's good news. So it's like a direct experience of a little good news each week, at least for me. And I hope it is a little bit for you. I think maybe we'll do a few announcements and then I'll launch into some stray thoughts. I've got so many little streams going. I don't want to wait too long tonight to see what pops out, but I thought we'd have a few announcements. And Howie, are you sharing announcements tonight, or am I? Or
I can give it a shot. Can you hear me
I
okay?
can hear you beautifully, and thank you for co-hosting tonight.
I apologize. There was a technical snafu at the top, and hopefully we are long past that now.
Yes, an ancient history.
Well, I'm going to put two things in the chat for everyone. The first one is going to be a notice that there is going to be a day long with Howie, and that's I'm desperately trying to see it here as I do it here. It's at Prescott Meditation.
No, actually, you mind if I correct you? Sorry to interrupt.
Please. Yeah.
But there will be a online weekend retreat, 10 to 4, 9:30 to 2:30 on Sunday, a weekend retreat hosted by the Prescott, Arizona Insight Meditation Community. And all of you are invited. They've opened it up to include anyone who wants to come. So come one, come all, and you could go to Prescott. Do you have information about that contact, Howie?
It's there in the chat now.
Great.
There's a link that you just need to click on. Also, anyone who already clicked on the invite here, you could see if you scroll down, there are some other upcoming events with Howie, which are invited in the invite, which I won't list. And lastly, I just want to mention Donna, if that is appropriate now. Most everybody knows Donna is part of this practice. It is, I think, the Pali word for generosity, and it is integral into what we are all doing here. And it is a pillar of what about this Buddhism and this practice is. And I will say that personally, it is not a chore. For anybody who can afford to donate, I will be putting in the chat a number of ways to do it, including online and Venmo, PayPal, etc. And that there is its purpose is to continue to forward the word of the Dharma and to support those who are doing it. And insofar as we're supporting them, we're supporting ourselves. So it's a no-brainer. It's part of why we're here. And I will put that in the chat right underneath the Prescott meditation announcement. And that's all.
Thank you, Howie. So maybe we'll take a sacred pause to, if you'd like to engage in the practice of dana now, that would be fine. It could be anytime, but also if you need to use the facilities, please take just 3 minutes, and at 54 minutes after the hour, depending on where you are, we will continue. 55 minutes after the hour, we'll continue. And so please stay aware. Feel free to keep your cameras on so that we keep that sense of connection. And we'll begin in a minute, a few anyway. While I was sitting tonight, I had a memory of my first insight meditation retreat in the late 70s with the teacher Joseph Goldstein, who I would consider my root insight meditation teacher. And as I just told him recently that I tell everyone this whenever I speak of him, I consider him the preeminent Western Dharma teacher. Just the the combination of depth of wisdom and humility and just accessibility, tenderness, just an amazing, and a great sense of humor, just a great being to have crossed paths with in this lifetime. But I think what really opened my heart to him was him delivering on my first retreat a teaching on the Four Noble Truths, which I think I speak about every week. In fact, every Dharma talk is some variation on the Four Noble Truths. The fact that this life has within it so many things that are hard to bear, that is if you're born, definition of birth, leading cause of all kinds of stress and suffering. And that what perpetuates the cycle of mental suffering that compounds the suffering that's part of everyone's life is a chronic habit of our mind to want things to be other than the way they are. To think is quite natural when things are not so easy to bear. But somehow the state of wanting things to be otherwise creates an internal tension and a sense of postponement of relief and a tendency to hope and wait for better times, which also seems natural, but that sense of hope and wait and want, it actually creates a tension that turns our present experience into something even harder to bear, to a pass-through on our way to something better. What's missed is life in the middle of it. But he also talked about there being an end to this cycle of suffering that is not the stress that's part of everybody's life, but the mental suffering that it's possible to let go and to be free. And that there's a path that one can cultivate moment by moment that can create out of their own life to find a sense of well-being, a sense of happiness that is independent of the circumstances of our life that are so much out of our control. But it's not the total body of the talk that opened my heart, but it was just someone naming it, that this life has so many painful elements to it, that it's hard to bear. Just someone saying it, of course, in the way that he did, of course, there must have been something about it, but I just started to weep. I just started to cry, but it was a cry of happiness. That that for a moment, somebody wasn't pretending it's supposed to be wonderful here. I felt so overwhelmed by the enormity of suffering today that I sat down, and it was actually a bit curative, but I sat down and just wrote. And of course, I will be betraying my limited view of all the ways that people can suffer, but I thought of these today. I thought of Afghanistan and the history of that country and everything that the people of Afghanistan have gone through, and now just everything around that as it relates to our country, as it relates to the whole world. I thought of the fires. The fires they're out of control. It's hard. Thought of in the midst of all of that, the pandemic, so many people, and the ripple effect of families losing their lives, just the enormity of loss in this world every day. Given that all 7 billion of us have to be replaced every 100 years, that means a lot of people experiencing loss, separation. That's not easy. The hurricane, just all manner of vulnerabilities that we have. Our bodies are just not, they don't cooperate. They don't respond to our will or our wish. A little bit. Our positive thinking can really help our bodies, but our bodies are subject to so many non-personal influences, and that we are vulnerable to sickness, aging, death, relationships, so many conflicted relationships, beautiful relationships, but lots of conflicted ones. Lots of people, I spoke of it recently, lots of people experience so much loneliness, isolation, the pain of that. Financial stresses, career stresses, lack of space, engulfment, too much space, all kinds of marginalization, all kinds of dissing. I'm about to lead a retreat starting on Friday at Spirit Rock, and each teacher in their own way who leads retreats now is not just encouraged, but with a lot of heart is offering a deep welcome to those who come to the retreat. And I was reading through the deep welcome that we will be sharing this Friday. And of course, it was the lens I was saying through, but it was a deep welcome to all the differences that are among us. And each of the differences that I will mention or will be mentioned by the different teachers that we welcome on the retreat are all differences where people have not felt included. They've not felt cared for, loved, and they've suffered because of being othered in some way. Just that's another measure of suffering. I thought while I was on that subject, I would share a little bit of the deep welcome that we will do. And this is a response in a way to the fact of suffering in our lives. Somebody's got to say it. This is how it is. It's a tough world. So one of the teachers will say, I'd like to welcome people of all genders, our friends who identify as transgender, genderqueer, those who identify as women and as of men, non-binary, gender expansive. Welcome. People who identify as agitators, activists, change makers, those who are agents of change within their communities and with how they are raising their children. Welcome. I'd like to welcome those who are gay, lesbian, bisexual, pansexual, queer, heterosexual folks who stand next to us and those who do not. Those for whom none of these labels fit and are finding your own path. Welcome. I'd like to welcome people of African descent, Black, African American, Asian descent, Arab descent, European descent, those who identify as Hispanic, Latinx, people of indigenous to the land, the people of mixed, multiple descendants, languages spoken here, Spanish, English, indigenous languages, sign language, etc. Specifically, different cities from all the different places in this world, those who support you to be here. Now, every single person named has been a person who has in some way suffered. Your families, genetic and otherwise. I'd like to welcome people with different faiths, religious traditions, faith practices, private practices, not belonging to a tradition, agnostics, atheists, seekers. I welcome those who are single, married, partnered, dating in monogamous or polyamorous relationships, those who are sexually active and those who aren't, those in their teens, 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, 90s, those dear to us who have died, who are dying. welcome to our elders, those here in this room, in this case, it'll be at the retreat, in our lives, and those who have passed. We welcome people with disabilities, visible or invisible. Your bodies, we welcome your bodies in the different ways you experience yours, including chronic pain, strength, tension, all the different ways that are really a reminder that we have suffered. So at the heart of the Dharma is turning toward this. And when I was thinking about the enormity of suffering today, I was thinking that the only response, the only wise response is tenderness. It's to be tender toward ourselves for our own individual version of dukkha, of stress, of suffering, but for every single person, even those who you would usually consider your difficult person, your enemy. That to respond, to live our lives with anything other than loving kindness is just to add to the burden that's already heavy enough. Last week, toward the end of the group, I probably was on the same topic, but I said that I would read the Metta Sutta. I think I was highlighting, in those moments, I was highlighting some teachings from a sutta called the Kalama Sutta, which is the sutta about these people that went to see the Buddha and trying to figure out who to listen to and who not to. And he said, well, if what they're teaching leads to well-being and happiness, leads to non-harming, leads to the heart's release, then follow it. But he specifically said that you want to look for somebody who is embodying what he called non-greed, non-hatred, non-ignorance, which means the opposite of feeding the poisons of greed, grasping, hatred, ill will, and the delusion of self, being so caught up in our individuality, which is in some ways, in the face of the enormity of suffering, are being caught up in our personality and our personality view, our internal dialogue. It almost seems petty, yet that's also a part of our human suffering, and even that is deserving of compassion, self-compassion. But anyway, the Kalama Sutta says that if you really put to practice, if you really want to go against the stream of what perpetuates suffering in this world, which is greed and hatred and ignorance, and really practice non-greed and non-hatred, non-ignorance, then if you put to practice the four immeasurable qualities, the qualities of love, compassion, joy, and equanimity, then in the middle of it all, you can bring well-being and happiness to yourself, and bring happiness to this world. But that's the kind of person or the kind of teaching that you want to follow, not because what they've said or how many people have agreed with it, but whether it leads to non-greed, to non-hatred, to non-ignorance. So as part of that, I wanted, as an encouragement for all of us, to meet this world of stress and pain with loving kindness. I just thought that we would just contemplate a little bit the Metta Sutta, not really contemplate it, but just really take it in and commit ourselves from, at least if possible, from the time we wake up in the morning till the time we go to bed, to radiating loving kindness, all directions. From the Kalama Sutta, before I read the Metta Sutta, it said, the disciples of the noble ones, the Kalamas, who in this way is devoid of coveting, devoid of ill will, undiluted, clearly comprehending, and mindful, dwells having pervaded with the thought of friendliness or love, 1/4, likewise the second, likewise the third, likewise the fourth. So above, below, across, he dwells, having pervaded because of the existence in it all of living beings everywhere, the entire world, with the great, exalted, boundless thought of friendliness that is free from hate and malice. And then it goes on to repeat as it does. But this is the inspiration behind it, this sutta, this teaching called the Metta Sutta, where the Buddha says, this is what should be done by those who are skilled in goodness and who know the path of peace. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech, humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied, unburdened with duties, and frugal in their ways. I'm going to read these again so that we can actually take them in. Let them be able and upright, straightforward and gentle in speech. Take any one of these and turn it into a daily practice. Humble and not conceited, contented and easily satisfied. Try it for a moment. Unburdened with duties, frugal in their ways, peaceful and calm, wise and skillful, not proud and demanding in nature. Let them not do the slightest thing that the wise would later reprove. Wishing in gladness and in safety, may all beings be at ease. Whatever living beings there may be, whether they are weak or strong, omitting none. The great or the mighty, medium, short or small, the seen and the unseen, those living near and far away, those born and to be born, may all beings be at ease. Let none deceive another or despise any being in any state. Let none through anger or ill will wish harm upon another. I'm stopping there because I've noticed recently that beings that I started to, in moments of frustration, take pleasure in those who I thought were wrong, being called out and being and paying the price for causing harm. But that was ill will. And it was wishing harm upon another. Even as a mother protects with her life her child, her only child, so with a boundless heart should one cherish all living beings, radiating kindness over the entire world, spreading upward to the skies, downward to the depths, outward and unbounded, freed from hatred and ill will. Whether standing or walking, seated or lying down, free from drowsiness, one should sustain this recollection. This is said to be the sublime abiding. By not holding to fixed views, the pure-hearted one, having clarity of vision, being freed from all sense desires, or I like to change that to be freed from the dependency on sense desires, that seems more workable, is not born again into the cycles of suffering, mental suffering. The way it actually reads is not born again into this world. But I like to, what's workable in my life is not being born again and again into the cycles of dissatisfaction that makes me small, that makes me tight, makes me frustrated, makes me cause harm. So may we all cultivate the heart of loving kindness, the heart of compassion, the heart of joy, to find joy in the middle of this. And how do we find joy? Is we, just as Howie offered the heart of the Dharma, one of the causes of joy is generosity. It's taking that opportunity in every element of our life to give when the impulse arises. When I've thought about one of the most wonderful things about having family, having friends, having a partner is the thought of how is to have some way of having that thought of how you can bring ease and happiness to others. And it's the greatest blessing of having contacts, is that there are people to offer yourself to. And if you don't have people in your life, then find larger ways of giving, of supporting, but generating that heart of generosity, because it brings joy in the thought of it. It brings joy in the act of it. It brings joy in the memory of it. It brings joy even in the midst of all the pain of this world. There's a way to feel joy. And it's a matter of taking advantage of it. I feel so grateful to be reminded that there are these teachings that even though the world it seems sometimes like a failed experience, humanity, but also in the middle of it, there's wisdom that has emerged and that I'm drawing from every day, that there are those who have discovered an awakened capacity in each of us. And they express it in different forms and different traditions, but all of us have that Buddha nature, that Christ nature, whatever it is, that awakened heart, and that we can draw inspiration from that awakening. And then the teachings that are offered, that there are wisdom teachings in this world, lots of flavors. It's not just a world of suffering. It's a world of wisdom and discernment and intelligence, and that we can tap into that. And that just to reiterate, there is a community that we can be inspired by and draw inspiration from, but also community that we can offer our support to. I'm so grateful for the teachings in this world of stress, the teachings on the fallacy of the misplaced faith that people put in the wanting mind and the dependency on sense pleasures. Tonight, while I was sitting, I was just remembering, as I often do when I sit, I remember teachings from early retreats. And one of the devices teachers used in the early days were reading the little stories from the Sufi wise person fool named Mullah Nasruddin. And in the story that I thought of tonight, in this, when I think of the innocent ways that we try to soften the blow of our uncertain and painful existence with trying to feed the wanting mind, we also may get a lot of pleasure. But as I've read from Hafiz before, he says, learn to recognize the counterfeit coins that buy you just a moment of pleasure, but then drag you for days like a broken man behind a farting camel. But Mullah Nasruddin had a wonderful little story where he went to the market one day, and he had students and they used to gather around him, and he went to the market and there was a sale at the market on chili peppers. And he bought a bushel of chili peppers because they were on sale, and he took them home and he sat at the kitchen table and he began to, and his students all gathered around. They couldn't figure out, why is he buying these chili peppers? So the students gather around and he's eating them one by one. And as anyone who eats hot chili peppers, he started to perspire. And he just kept eating them and eating them. And finally, his students just couldn't stand it anymore. And they said, Mullah, why are you eating these chili peppers? What is going on with you? He kept eating, but finally he looked up. When they asked him again, why are you eating these chili peppers? He says, I'm looking for a sweet one. And it's precisely what we're doing. We're looking for that lasting, that sweet one, that sense of relief in experiences that just leave the burning of desire in their wake, that leave us dissatisfied. So the gratitude for teachings that remind us not to put our faith in things that actually cause us more stress, but instead to put our faith in what might be called the deathless, that in us which is awake, which is a Buddha, which is now, which is simple, which is immediate, which is quiet, which is already whole, which is a fulfilling the desire for peace that no other desire can fulfill, that is sweet in its nature. Somebody passed on a quote to me tonight. Let's see if I can find it. It was a question and answer about the Buddha. How did the Buddha attain enlightenment? And the answer was through intrinsic listening alone. So I like that intrinsic listening, because intrinsic means that listening, which is another way of saying awareness. It's intrinsic, it's natural to us. It's a place of safety. It follows us nearer than our breath, wherever we go, through our highs, our lows. Intrinsic listening alone. We listen to the joys, we listen to the sorrows. But that listening, that intrinsic listening, remains unmoved. So loving kindness, compassion, joy, equanimity. Equanimity is that wide view that understands that joys and sorrows are both part of life, and that we find our balance in the middle of it. And then the dedication of our life to being of benefit, to dedicating our practice to being a support to others. From the Buddha and the Samyutta Nikaya, one of the suttas, Samyutta Nikaya 47.19, the Buddha says, looking after oneself, one looks after others. Looking after others, one looks after oneself. How does one look after others? By looking after oneself, by practicing mindfulness, developing it, making it grow. How does one look after oneself? By looking after others, by patience, non-harming, loving kindness, and caring. So may we develop the heart that welcomes, that does not other, that includes rather than excludes. May all beings awaken to the sacred happiness that is without sorrow, here and now. May all beings grow in equanimity, serenity, able to meet the changing joys and sorrows with less grasping, less aversion. And again, may our practice be dedicated each day to the welfare and benefit of all. May all beings be liberated and offer the gift of liberation to this world of suffering. May all beings live with ease. Anyway, thanks for listening and letting me run through my list of all the kinds of suffering. It helped it not feel as monolithic and overwhelming to list the things, but at the same time, it's like a blow to our consciousness to just realize the enormity of it. But this is the Dharma doorway to compassion and love. So be well. Please feel free to unmute and say good night. And thanks for your attention and giving me